I like to say that sleep is the cheapest medicine out there. It literally is so good for you and will do so many like phenomenal things. We could talk for probably days on sleep. But in our society, it's really been pushed to the back, and not shown to be important. Hello, and welcome back to the Push Pause to Heal podcast. I am your host, Dr. Emily Rodersheimer, and on this podcast, we explore health from the inside out, starting with foundations, connection, and the conditions that allow the body to heal. Today, I have a very special guest. One of the coaches from my team, Coach Yoko, is here to join me. Hi, Yoko. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and Yoko is prepping to host our open office hours this month. So in my practice, in my membership program, we have once a month when somebody gives a talk about a different health conversation or topic. And the conversation this month is all about how to maintain health during the summer and have healthy routines and not kind of like just let everything fall off kilter and restart in September. So I thought, well, as Yoko was preparing for that she could jump on here and we can have a little conversation about that, because I think that's a really real topic and it's affecting people. I will admit, I just got back from being out of town for about 7 days in a row, and I went to the IFM conference, and then I did a couple college tours with my son, and it's hard to keep your healthy routines going when you're traveling, when there's no schedule, when you're on a different time zone, and it does impact you. So I'm feeling it firsthand. A funny story, one of my favorite routines that really helps me start my day off right is to gratitude journal every morning. And I found myself waking up in the morning and my son's still sleeping and the room's dark, and I was had no place to go. So one morning I just turned on the bathroom light and cracked the door a little bit, and I sat in the hall right outside the bathroom and did my gratitude journaling. So, you have to be creative, but that's how important I find these things to be. So, a lot of times we're going to talk about routines a lot today. And I find routines to be actually very protective and helpful. And I think in society, a lot of people think routines are restrictive, but they actually help us reduce that decision fatigue. So, you don't have to negotiate with yourself every morning, like, am I going to do gratitude journaling or am I not? I just am, and you don't have to depend solely on that motivation, which can really wane over time. And you don't have to start over every week with what am I doing? What are my goals or routines this week? They're really very supportive. And I think that those healthy routines that we have allow healthy choices to happen almost automatically, kind of on autopilot. And anything that can happen automatically that supports our health, we will take, right? And I think also, our bodies thrive on that predictability. The routine that it knows what's coming and it's easy to kind of maintain. And when we have that foundation, this is really the crux of everything that I've learned in building my own health, is the foundation. Once it's in place, the body has the consistency to function well. And, and most of you have heard my story before, but I was thinking on this today, it's been about 10 years that I've learned about functional medicine. And over that time, it's been implementing and trying and testing out new things, but it's literally been the routines that I have been able to implement that have allowed me to be in remission from my arthritis, to not take any medications anymore, and just so profoundly changed my life that I have literally built my entire practice around helping you set up healthy routines. It's really, I believe, where health begins. And, we see this idea, Yoko and I do every day, changing the lives of those who work with us, just having these routines and what is possible. So, Yoko, I don't know if you want to chime in on anything that I said there.
Yeah. Happy to. I find this to always be the case with every client I've worked with through you, Emily. Inherently, every client has it in them already to set the ball in motion. They know their bodies best. They know that once they make a change, that it will stick because they know themselves so well. So it's inbuilt in all of us, I think, to establish tiny habits. And by tiny habits, I mean, the smallest things that we do, like brushing our teeth, is just something we don't even think about doing. And so if we were to make the tiniest tweak to something that we know isn't working quite well, inherently we know that there's something off about our bodies. Maybe it's the caffeine that we're drinking, for example, that makes us feel a little bit too edgy or a little too jittery, or it makes us feel like our energy's tanking about an hour later, or whatever it is. If you tweak that to, let's say, half a cup of caffeine, or, an hour after waking up as opposed to upon waking, these little things that get adjusted can make us feel inherently 5% better or 10% better or whatever it is. So our bodies know. And so if once you get the ball rolling by talking to someone like Emily, a functional medicine doctor, or myself, a health coach, and get that inspiration, perhaps to make that tweak or try that tweak, it can really make a huge difference. So once you start practicing, it becomes automatic, just like riding a bicycle, just like brushing your teeth, whatever.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you brought it back to your body always knows. And that's so critical. Like, there's nothing outside of you that you really need beyond just working with your body, which is what we try to help people do, align with what their body's asking them for. So I think for the summer, in the summer, the kids, if you've got kids, they're out of school, there's not this kind of cadence to the day as much. Like my teenagers tend to sleep half the day, and then I don't know if it's, am I making dinner tonight? Are you going to be home? Like all of these things, and like they want to stay up all night and watch a movie or whatever, and it throws us all off. And we want to enjoy some of that, right? Summer's supposed to be a little bit more relaxed, but so I had this thought about, maybe we can just take on a few non-negotiables. So the goal isn't to like have no fun all summer and to stay in the same exact like sort of regimented vibe that we have during the rest of the year, but really to relax a little bit. But I think we need some foundation there. So, maybe you can pick a couple non-negotiables that you're going to this is something I do it in the summer, no matter what's happening, and make it stick. So, I kind of think of summer as a time to simplify, not quit. That summer's less confined, less regimented, as I was saying. So maybe we can just make it more simple. But we don't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and start all over every September. So this conversation is going to be about how to come back to those basics, pick a few non-negotiables. So Coach Yoko and I are going to just talk about a couple ideas, and if something lands with you or something really resonates more strongly, then that's likely what your body is guiding you to lean into a little bit. And it doesn't have to be a huge change, but even a small change done over time, it's that compounded interest, right? It builds and builds and builds, and before you know, you've got a big payoff. So Coach Yoko was kind enough to share with me her slides that she's going to be presenting at our open office hours. And one of the slides was, I love the title. It says, "Your body runs on rhythm." And it was talking about the concept of the circadian rhythm. So Yoko, can you tell us a little bit about what is our circadian rhythm and the importance of really leaning into that?
Yeah. Circadian rhythm is effectively our body clock. It tells us what time it is in our bodies, and it's the master controller of pretty much every function in our body, in particular our metabolism. And I think that's quite important to remember because, a lot of us, especially us women, as we're aging, start to deal with things like insulin insensitivity, insulin resistance, blood sugar regulation issues, and things of that nature. So circadian rhythm is really important to remember, I think, insofar as it's all about timing of what we do throughout the day, when we wake up, when we eat, when we go to sleep, when we move, when we recover. All of those things, I think, are incredibly important as part of our human biology to optimize. So I think, yeah, summer gives us that natural biological advantage because we have early sunlight, and then a late sunset. And so it makes us feel more vibrant. Sunshine in general just gives us more energy. And the crux of that really is that daylight, the sunlight, hits our eyes, our retinas, and then it triggers this area called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that sets everything in motion. Where our body's central clock gets set, and all the hormones start to do what they do as we need to function. So, in a nutshell, circadian rhythm is really the sort of the setter of time, our processes.
Yes. And everything's supposed to work in relation to, all the systems work in relation to time in some way. And it's this is like the leading edge of a lot of research right now. So I was just at the IFM conference, and there was a whole discussion on circadian rhythm and how things as simple as light pollution at night. And what that means is, like, you know, in the evening hours when it's supposed to be dark out and we have all the lights on in the house, or you live in a big city and you're downtown like New York City at night, and that's obvious light pollution right there, right? But having that, all of that is enough to impact our circadian rhythm in a negative way and set us up for diabetes, heart disease, cancer. Like, all of these chronic diseases have a circadian rhythm aspect to them. So this is really, it's so much more important than it sounds. But one of the best triggers, which you've mentioned, is light. And getting outside early in the morning really helps to synchronize all the clocks. All the organs in our body have their own clock, and it helps to put it all on the same rhythm. And then cutting off light closer to bedtime. So, you know, not looking at a screen right before you want to fall asleep, and having a normal sleep-wake time, you know. So I think, I don't know if you would agree, but I think one of the important things, like if we wanted to set a non-negotiable around our circadian rhythm, my suggestion would be like a routine sleep wake time and a routine sleep time with a little window of forgiveness on either side most days. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, not setting this as a perfection point, but really giving yourself some leeway, but also establishing a habit of, let's say, just 10 minutes maybe, or 10-15 minutes, going outside on your front porch or your back patio. If you live in an apartment, maybe you're going out onto the balcony. And I think the common misconception here is that on a cloudy day, you're not going to get sunlight. It's not going to have as good an effect. But turns out the lumens, if you will, the measurement of light, even on a cloudy day, is quite high, and it will have still the same impact on setting in motion all of the processes of your body that need to happen. So even on a cloudy day, if you can at least do 10 minutes of sunlight exposure in the morning, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And then within reason, having a very basic wake up time and sleep time, right? So maybe a half hour ball, you know, on either side of that goal, you know, not to be perfect, but if one night we try to go to bed, or we go to bed at midnight, and then the next night we try to catch up and go to bed at 9, that's very much out of alignment with our circadian rhythm, right? So our bodies you will fall asleep and have a better sleep much more easily if it's around the same time every night, because your body's kind of used to it. It knows what to expect. All the hormones and the melatonin and all the things are in alignment to make that happen.
Yeah. And I would also add, if you're traveling into a totally different time zone, let's say gets completely flipped where you're, going 12 hours ahead to Japan. There's a way to sort of incrementally adjust to that time zone prior to your travel, right? So you can start to shift your bedtime a little bit, or your wake time a little bit a couple days prior. But most importantly, I think, getting to that local time zone once you're there, to then expose yourself to that natural daylight as much as possible when you're there. As soon as you land, if you're landing there morning time, for example, try not to nap.
Yeah. That's the hardest.
Keep your eyes open.
Yeah.
And let that natural daylight keep you awake as much as possible so that you adjust as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Quick add in about circadian rhythm. The timing of our meals is also important, to try to stick with a rough meal time as well. Like if you generally breakfast around 7 a.m., then breakfast should be ballpark 7 a.m., most days, because when we have that routine and that rhythm there, then our digestive enzymes know what time to start kicking in, and we're going to digest that meal a little bit better, and the pancreas is ready to release insulin at that time, and it's all working as like this big orchestra. Everything is kind of coordinated, and it really loves that routine. So just these regular things, the going, what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, getting some first morning light exposure, and eating about the same time. Those are some options. If any of those feel very out of alignment for you, that might be something that you want to focus on to help you create a solid foundation. So I love that concept. But another big one that you had a slide about as well is, and the title of that slide was "Blood Sugar Balance is the Foundation of Summer Energy." And I love that. Do you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think it's so important to talk about blood sugar in general, because a lot of people, I think, associate blood sugar problems with just type 2 diabetes, but it actually is so much bigger than that. It impacts your energy, your hormones, your sleep, your longevity overall, right? So the reason why I've added this slide is because I think there is a very key component to this that can help you feel more energized if you have your blood sugar in balance. And one of the things that I think gets overlooked, especially for us women, is muscle mass in particular declines with age, and turns out muscle is one of the biggest consumers of glucose. So as you're eating, a sweet breakfast, for example, you get a huge hit of glucose, your blood sugar spikes, and then you crash. Well, if you had more muscle mass and you're actually regularly exercising, then your muscles will soak up that glucose out of your bloodstream, etc. So all that to say, I think it's super underrated to say, working out your muscles, exercising, is an important part of balancing your blood sugar because of the muscle component.
Yeah, and I think that I noticed this personally when I wore a continuous glucose monitor for a while, which is not just for people with diabetes, by the way. It can be very helpful for optimizing your health. But I would see after a meal, if, especially if I had lots of rice or potato or something with the meal, my blood sugar would go higher than I wanted it to. But if I took a walk right after dinner, came right down. Like that was that movement. It's the muscles were like gobbling up the glucose, and it was like, it's beautiful. So that's a real win. But I think I want to circle back to like how badly it feels to be on a blood sugar roller coaster. And because I think honestly, sometimes we get clients and that's their main problem is the blood sugar roller coaster, but they don't know it. It's not obvious when you're living it. You just know that you feel exhausted after lunch, like you need a nap at 2 p.m. every day, Yeah. But that can be a real sign that what you ate for lunch took your sugar up higher than it should, and our bodies are super smart. They know that if the sugar's high, it's not safe, so they'll release more insulin, and then the sugar comes down. As steeply as it went up, it will come down. So if it was a spike up, it's going to fall down. And that crash makes us feel tired, brain fog. I don't know. Do you want to add to that?
Oh yeah, I think it can cause mental health issues. We feel lower in our mood. We feel less capable, right? We feel like we can't sustain the energy throughout the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I think the key components of maintaining the blood sugar balance are protein, of course. It slows the glucose absorption. It satiates us, and it really, it prevents that huge spike from happening in our blood. And then as well, fiber is a huge component of making sure that spike doesn't happen, or that it mitigates that sort of spike. So those are the two that I often talk about with my clients.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I would
fats, healthy
agree.
fats.
Absolutely. And I think protein is a buzzword right now. It is actually as important as we're hearing about it. But I think if anything, I would have you just the listener to start to think about their breakfast, and is there enough protein at breakfast? Because that's setting the tone for the whole rest of your day. And there's actually a study that shows that people who eat more protein heavy breakfast actually consume less calories through the rest of the day, because their blood sugar is stable. You're not snacking. You're not looking every 2 hours what's in the cabinet, or where's my soda or whatever, because you've got a solid blood sugar based on that protein, and you just feel better. So considering if it's currently a bagel with cream cheese or some oats for breakfast, is that enough protein? For most people, the goal is around 30 grams per meal, and that can just really set you up to avoid that up and down roller coaster, which just feels so terrible.
Yeah, and I think going back to that, building a routine, the tiny tweaks to make it a little bit more sustainable for you. In that bagel and cream cheese example, if you want to add a little bit more protein, smoke salmon that up, right? Or if you want the oats, add a big scoop of protein powder. And so you don't have to necessarily overhaul your diet right away, but it's the layering of new things little by little to make it more palatable to change your habits.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. So that's an area where, if you're looking to create a solid foundation, maybe see if there's something standing out that you want to focus on. And then I also love the title of this slide was "Sleep is a Metabolic Superpower." In sleep, I think anybody who's had a bad night's sleep just knows how critical it is to feeling good. It's your body just really does such an amazing cleanup job when you're sleeping, that when we don't get the cleanup job, it's like, oh man, this is a struggle. So do you want to tell us a little bit about, maybe talk about the importance of sleep and some ideas around really creating a solid foundation with sleep?
Love to. The more we accumulate days or nights of poor sleep, our cortisol continues to stay elevated, which can have a cascade of issues following. So elevated cortisol, our hunger hormone called ghrelin increases. So we're just like constantly wanting to snack, to stay awake, to feel energized. And that can lead to insulin resistance as well. And while that's happening, we just kind of lose control of our blood sugar balance. We can't recover as quickly from things like workouts or stressful moments. And then as well, our brains don't recover, they don't repair. There's a lot of toxin removal that happens in our brains while we're sleeping. And so when that's not happening, we start to develop brain fog. We can't think clearly. Our prefrontal cortex just doesn't work. So making decisions is
too,
hard.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard to
Totally.
be kind to those around you if you're, didn't get enough sleep. Yeah.
I can attest to that as a mom.
I like to say that sleep is the cheapest medicine out there. It literally early is so good for you and will do so many like phenomenal things. We could talk for probably days on sleep. But in our society, it's really been pushed to the back, and not shown to be important. So like, the idea of maybe having some sort of bedtime for your phone, or bedtime for the TV, like if Netflix is your problem, keeping you up all night, maybe like 9 p.m. 10 p.m., whatever it is, like, okay, the TV goes to bed at that time so I can start to unwind and get a good night's sleep. Just sometimes we have to kind of put some rules in for ourselves to, because otherwise you could literally stay up for 24 hours and just keep working or watching or consuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, most recently, the simple act of buying a clock and moving my phone into the room next door or the bathroom to charge or whatever it needs to do, but I'm not looking at it. It's not the first thing I look at when I wake up in the morning. It's not the first thing I pick up. Yeah, so that's something that can be done relatively easily. But yeah, the consistent wake time and sleep time, I think, is really crucial to protecting your sleep. Your body really depends on that, I think. The more erratic it is, and especially those night owls out there who could go till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, they're not getting the repair that we all need between these crucial hours of, you can tell me if this is right or not, between the hours of like 10:30 and 2 o'clock is when the brain really needs that crucial repair.
The deepest sleep happens earliest in the night. So yes, so when we push our bedtime later and later, we miss out on a lot of the deeper sleep where the much more healing and repair happens. So yeah, I agree. So again, just think about, listeners can think about their evening hours, what they're doing. Is there any shift there that feels like it's calling to you, like, oh, I know I really shouldn't be staying up quite this late, or whatever the thing is, and maybe start to take on a small tweak there. And then the next idea I wanted to talk about was and I know, Yoko, you and I see this every day, is the all or nothing trap. And this is, what, if I can't do it perfectly, this is what, I've been in this myself. You think, if I can't do it perfectly, like, why, I'm not going to bother doing it. It's just it's not worth it. So, like when we're on vacation and we maybe eat a little differently, then you come home and you're like, oh, well, why bother getting back on track? I've blown it on vacation. I'll start over in September, or staying up too late every night. You have one night that's off and then you're like, oh, I forget it. But we really, consistency beats intensity every time. That those small little shifts will make such an improvement, way more so than you being perfect even one day a week. I know you would love to chime in on this one, Yoko.
Yeah, I call it the 80% rule. 80% of the time you stick to your guns, you stick to your routine, you stick to the tiny habits that you committed to. And then the 20% of the time remaining, you're going to enjoy, having dinner out. You're going to enjoy dessert, have a cocktail, enjoy the vacation, and let loose. And it's that 20%, I think, where you're not stressing about being perfect that can really help you sustain your energy and really, repair yourself, right? There's a social aspect to the 20%. I think that's really important for repair and thriving as humans. So I would include that in the 20%. So yeah, not being a huge stickler, not obsessing over, am I doing this right? Am I being, as optimal as possible with my health is really important. But as part of the 80% that you're going to stick to, maintaining the rhythm that we just talked about, tiny sleep habits, even just a little bit of movement, even if it's just a walk after dinner every night. Or, making protein. Sure that you're hydrating, or the protein, you're always choosing a protein for breakfast, can go a long way.
Yeah, that 80% is really so helpful that it allows for 20% of wiggle room. Like if you can really get that 80% mostly dialed in, like then you're allowed, like it's okay. Like that's all your body really needs for that strong foundation, and the rest should feel playful, light, free, and knowing you have that 20% wiggle room is sometimes the most important thing. Like even if you don't utilize it all, it's like, okay, I have to be perfect, and I do have that option of having that cookie if I chose to later, that kind of thing. Yeah.
The more you practice, I'd say the 80%, the better it feels in your body, and you kind of get addicted to that sort of rhythm, right? And I know that's true for me. The more protein I started eating, a couple years ago, I just didn't want to not choose the savory breakfast with the egg and the avocado and what have you. And then when I let loose in the 20%, it felt really great as well. I was relaxed, but I couldn't wait to get back into the 80% routine. I'm like,
okay, I'm not the only one. Yeah. I am like a routine nerd. Like I love my routines. And I think just because of my own health struggles, like once I found things that I could do for myself that made me feel so good, it was like a miracle, and because I think so much of our society, it's like, look to the doctor, look to the pill, look to the supplement or the test or whatever for creating your health. And really, we have the agency. We have so much ability to impact our own health with these small things that once you get a hold of it and you've been struggling for a long time, it's like, whoa, I can do that. Like, so powerful, so powerful. So for me, it's like, yes, I mentioned my morning routine and trying to sneak that in even on vacation. And then my other is like, sleep for me has become like something I crave, and a lot of my clients, it's like, oh, I don't want to go to bed. Because then, I'm going to miss out and I want to watch this show or have me time or whatever. My best me time, like I can't wait to crawl in my bed and lay on that comfy pillow, and I don't have to do anything, and I just get to rest. It's like so, and then feel really good in the morning. It's wonderful. So yeah, so you and I are I don't think we're alone in how we love and crave our routines. And I think our listener can too. Give it a try and see what you think. And, I think this has been a great conversation. I would just say, that health isn't built by what we do occasionally. It's built by what we do consistently. So summer doesn't have to be this long season where we just start over in September because we gave up. It can be a season of learning which habits matter most and carrying those no matter what life looks like, trying to incorporate even a little bit of each of that throughout the whole summer can be a beautiful thing, a beautiful commitment to yourself. And I would just say that if you're listening today and thinking like, I know these habits are important, but it's really hard because it's really hard. Like it's very hard in our society to set up these routines and stick to them when everything around us is trying to tell us to do differently. If you struggle to stay consistent, please know that you're not alone. And creating healthy routines is one thing, but sustaining them is when life gets busy is really a whole different ball game. And that's exactly why I created our Health Begins Here program. Coach Yoko is one of the coaches that helped me run that program. It's our lifestyle first coaching program designed to help you build the foundational habits that support lasting health with guidance and accountability and support every step of the way. And I like to say that our coaches help you create routines that work in real life and in your real life, right? So it's all personalized to you and what would work for you. Yoko, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say the Health Begins Here program is so wonderful, not just because you get to work with a health coach who's been there and been through the motions of making changes themselves. And we've read up on a ton of research, and we're constantly evolving ourselves and practicing different health habits. But you also have a giant community behind you with like-minded people who are also members who you can connect with in our community sessions, or there are various ways to know that you're not alone in our program. And so I think it's easy to be inspired by our team and our membership, and I think it'll make it that much easier to embody these new habits and changes
and the summer might be the perfect time to dive in, just to have some anchor point for these healthy routines that we're talking about trying to maintain in the summer. But yeah, we see on average a 63% reduction in symptoms in our program within 3 months time. So routines matter. They really matter. Your day in and day out choices and things that you are capable of doing. Sometimes you just need a little bit of support. So if this conversation resonated, please share it with somebody that would be interested in listening. And Coach Yoko, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your insights, and for all that you do for the community.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.